Okay, so we've been talking a bunch about Patrik Laine, number one goal-scoring winger for the Winnipeg Jets. We've chronicled the trade scenario and the different ideas, the different stories, the different proposals as they have been going on and have been leaked throughout the media. This time, though, we're taking a little bit of a different approach, because if you've been noting the recent videos we've made about Laine, and I'm trying to recall them off the top of my head. I think the most previous one on Patrik Laine was the rejected idea of him being traded for Martin Necas. That was a video we made before. We also spoke about how he is eventually going to leave Winnipeg per a Finnish report, either via a trade or by free agency once his contract does expire. But we're taking a little bit of a contrary approach to that idea because we're going over to Ken Wiebe's most recent Jets mailbag, where he goes over what exactly his own opinion is on the Patrik Laine situation and how things are going to shape up. This article was published earlier on October 29th, so it has a little bit more of a recent flavor in comparison to some of the other stuff that we have seen already. Now, let's go over before he even gets to the mailbag portion of this article, because you know what a mailbag is. People send the writer in some questions, and then he responds, and he goes over a few ideas. It's a very nice, engaging way to open up different discussions, but before he even gets to the questions, he says this on Patrik Laine, that his position on the matter hasn't changed. Unless the Winnipeg Jets are blown away by an offer in the coming weeks or months, the most likely scenario would see Laine report to training camp and play out the final year of his deal, which includes an AAV of $6.75 million. Now, this is one part of the story, because yes, we did note earlier in that report from the Finnish media source that he could theoretically leave Winnipeg just via free agency later on, not just by a trade, but by the fact that he just has the ability to not re-sign when that time comes to get an extension done. But let's continue on with what Wiebe has to say over here. Since the Jets have 3 more years of team control, the organization isn't going to rush to move Laine unless another team makes it well worth their while. This is kind of where things get a little bit fishy, because making it worth their while, this is something we've spoken about a ton before as well, that the Winnipeg Jets don't want to make a trade just for the sake of doing it, just because Patrik Laine is a guy who would like to play somewhere else, but because they're going to make a trade to make their team better. This is kind of where the mailbag portion of the article comes in, because we have ourselves a question from Advin Paktakan. This lovely individual asks what would have to be added to a potential trade involving Laine and Werenski so that both teams would say yes. Or is that even possible? Let's read Ken Wiebe's response, part of it, because it's a very big response. I do give props for going super in-depth about this, but we're just going to read some of the portion that is mentioned here. The answer opens up by talking about how the Columbus Blue Jackets were trying to load up. We've noted this in a few videos, but they're a team that did free up a boatload of salary before the free agency period started up. They didn't really do anything with that salary aside from getting Mikko Koivu, but nevertheless, they still have some open opportunity for money. They do need to re-sign Pierre-Luc Dubois, but they still have some room to work with. Laine certainly fits the bill on that front being a number one goal-scoring forward. And a pairing with head coach John Tortorella could be fascinating. Now, that is another great idea, too. I would love to see Patrik Laine playing under John Tortorella, just see how the discipline is going to have to be forced into his game from there on out. While it would make sense for the Jets to try and acquire someone like Zach Werenski, who has no trade protection and would provide cost certainty for 2 more seasons at a reasonable AAV of $5 million, at which point he would be an RFA with arbitration rights, the Blue Jackets are still in no hurry to move a top D-man that averages nearly 24 minutes a game and is used in all situations. Columbus would want to build their decor around Werenski and Jones. This isn't a scenario like the one that brought Jones to Columbus in the first place in the blockbuster deal with the Predators for Ryan Johansson. He then explains the differences, how the Predators had a ton of good defensemen and they needed a center. But going back to the Blue Jackets and the Jets piece, there isn't really an idea here that makes it seem like a Zach Werenski would be available. But this is kind of the stuff that we were talking about beforehand. If the Jets make a trade, it's not going to be for some scrub. it's going to be for somebody who's legit, like a legit number 1, number 2, number 3 caliber defender. And Zach Werenski is just that. It's just with the uncertainty of the market, the uncertainty of the contract extension that Laine is going to get next season, as well as all the other stuff combined with it. Oh, do you prioritize a top 4 D-man or a number 1 goal scorer? Is Patrik Laine even capable of becoming a number 1 goal scorer? Which I very much do believe he is. Let's be real here. There are so many philosophical questions that go behind it, and just because a team is willing to, let's say, think about it, it doesn't really mean that anything is going to be set in stone. Obviously, this stuff is just up there in the moon, and we have so many different options from different teams to explore, which is why we even made that video beforehand talking about the Netshot rejection that took place between Laine and the Carolina Hurricanes. So, would we be able to see something like this? And I know Werenski is like the biggest name out there because every time I've seen Winnipeg Jets fans on Twitter, on Reddit, even some on YouTube, Peg City Hockey, shout out to him, he's a very nice Winnipeg Jets YouTuber, they're always talking about the same things. Okay, if you're trading away Laine, you're getting a big piece back. Werenski, he's the first name that's usually mentioned in these talks. And it's kind of why, I guess, it was even included in this Ken Wiebe mailbag, because Werenski being the number 1 name that people associate with a potential Laine trade that would actually go through, it does make sense to me, but obviously if you're in this position, it's got to be the Columbus Blue Jackets being the one to offer it up. It's not like the Jets are going to be able to ask for Werenski and say, okay, we're going to get it. It's got to be mutual there, because at the end of the day, Laine is a player whom apparently the Jets are interested in trading, but it also takes 2 to tango, which is why there's so much debate over this idea here. Imagine if it does go through, though. If you have yourselves a Winnipeg Jets decor where Zach Werenski is your number 1 guy, all of a sudden that's a huge boost up to your roster. We already know how good Connor Hellebuyck can be. My gosh, that guy's amazing. You guys had your depth signings with the Lucas Spiezas over there and the Nathan Beaulieus. Okay, that's pretty cool. You guys acquired that second-line center. Okay, that's pretty cool. Paul Stastny is great. You guys got back Niku as well, who's a very good player in my opinion. But having yourselves a number 1 defender, a legitimate bona fide number 1, to carry the reins and the torch after that Dustin Byfuglien, that does sound amazing. And as for the Columbus Blue Jackets, it would be awesome to see Patrik Laine as the number 1 guy on that squad. We've seen what good players can do in Columbus beforehand. Panarin was there, he was amazing. When they acquired Duchesne and Dzingel and eventually they eliminated the Lightning, that was incredible. We saw the madness coming out of Columbus, Ohio on how passionate their fans were. There's a reputation that the Columbus Blue Jackets have built up around the league that says that they're not a desirable location to play because Duchesne, Bobrovsky, Dzingel, Panarin, all these guys left their squad. But at the end of the day, there's some passionate hockey fans over there in Ohio, and I'm pretty sure if a Patrik Laine is the guy over there, he's going to be universally loved. I saw people putting up billboards begging Panarin to stay in Columbus. It didn't happen, but at the end of the day, it kind of shows off some of the dedication that the fans over there do have for their hockey players, even though hockey is not, it's not one of the main priorities when it comes to their main sports. But you know what I mean, right? If the Blue Jackets are able to get themselves out of the first round again, put up a fight in the second round, maybe do some stuff in the third round, who knows? If Patrik Laine is the guy to help them do it, who knows what kind of cult status this guy can get in Columbus? Because Panarin certainly had an opportunity to do it. He just decided, I'm just going to go to the Big Apple instead. There's an opportunity here to cement yourself in the legacy of what is one city's NHL history books. Dare I say, becoming the folk hero in sport in Ohio as LeBron James has been. Now, I know that's a completely out-of-this-world comparison. LeBron James, one of the best NBA players of all time, if not the best. I'm not going to get into that debate here in this video. But Columbus is starved, man. They've just been on the up-and-up. They have 2 good goaltenders. They have some good youth. They have Chinikov, who is very good. He's not even playing on the team. But my gosh, this guy's been making headlines over there in the KHL. They got Pierre-Luc Dubois. He's doing well. You still have Seth Jones. Even if you do trade a Werenski, Seth Jones is still in your squad, and he's doing pretty okay, too. There is potential here for a number 1 goal scorer, a number 1 point producer to come over into Columbus and actually take over those reins. Now, obviously, this is all hypothetical. We're just going off of one idea that was mentioned by Ken Wiebe to not even really be a thing that he thinks is going to happen, but still, it's the off season. We've got nothing else to talk about, so let me just experience what it's like to be in fantasy land. Just imagine what exactly a Patrik Laine can do with the Texiers of the world, with the Chinikovs of the world, with the Emil Benstroms and the Marchenkos of the world. It's going to be very interesting to see Columbus move into what is actually going to be a pretty good hockey team. They've got the cap space to do it. We just want to know where exactly that next step takes them. So talk to me in the comments what you think about this idea. Do you agree with Ken Wiebe's assessment that this is probably not going to happen? Werenski for Laine, despite the fact that this is probably the one trade that I see Winnipeg Jets fans talking about all the time. I know it's a very interesting discussion, which is why we made this video. Hope you enjoyed. So that is 99, and bye.